excited to introduce our guest. She is a trauma-informed empowerment coach whose mission is to help individuals spot and heal the effects of unresolved emotional wounds that are holding us back. In 2019, she founded Namaste and Slay. I love it. Namaste and Slay, an empowerment brand that leverages a combination of trauma-informed practices and holistic modalities to empower her clients to reconnect with their truth, to cultivate authentic resilience, and to foster lasting emotional well-being. We're going to be inspired by her journey tonight. My friends, will you please help me welcome our very own Yamarie Negron. And Yamarie, please, if I've messed up your last name, please help me, but welcome. We're so glad you're here.
You actually said it pretty well. I know it's a challenging one, but yes, my name is Yamarie Negron, and it's hard to roll those R's.
It is. Now, I'm a little boy from Goshen, Indiana, so I don't know the first thing, love, about rolling R's, but I can sure give it my best try. But we're so glad you're here. What a mouthful on your introduction. But what I'd love for you to do, could you unpack that for a little bit? There's a lot there. We'd love to learn a little bit more about you and your journey that maybe has led you to this wonderful work that you do now. Do you mind breaking it down a little bit for us? Tell us more about you.
Absolutely. So first I'll go ahead and break down what it is that I do, and I'll talk about what got me there. So essentially my focus is most of my clientele is women. So supporting mostly women who have suffered adverse childhood experiences or some other trauma along the way. Sometimes it's not always childhood related, but oftentimes it is. Sometimes they're also survivors of narcissism or toxic relationships or some other forms of abuse. And part of the reason that I do what I do, it's inspired by my own healing journey. So as someone who has suffered multiple traumas and adverse childhood experiences, one of the things that happened along the way for me is I got really frustrated with my healing journey. Right? How many of you feel like you felt stuck on your healing journey at some point? Drop a little heart emoji for me. Perhaps that's the reason why you're here. And so for me, it's like no matter what I did, I was doing the therapy. I was even going to shamans, right? I was doing the therapy. I was going to the energy healers. I was getting the tarot readings done. I was doing the personal development workshops. And I felt like I would take like one step forward, but 10 steps back. I was constantly getting stuck. And what I realized was that the reason why none of that was working is because I was trying to use the tools that cope rather than integrate them, that this had to become a lifestyle, that I had to start looking at it more so as a mind, body, soul approach. And so that's what I do now for my clients is I call it mind, body, soul, trauma informed integration. That's a mouthful as well. I don't have a better name for it just yet, but that's my focus, is helping people understand how their past wounding and trauma has affected them mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, and giving them practical tools to transcend those wounds.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable, and help me if you could concur with this, Yamarie, that we live, I'm telling you my age, I'm 58, 5'8". So I've grown up in a society and a culture where some of the things that we talk about nowadays, we never talked about it then, right? You just never let those skeletons out of the closet. What do you feel has brought about this insatiable desire in humanity to want to know my trauma so that I can get it freaking healed and move on? Does that make sense?
Is the question, what do I feel has happened as a collective?
Yes. What has happened collectively that has caused us to go on this search and even be able to verbalize, I've had this traumatic mess in my life? What brings us to that awareness where culturally before, generations before, we hid that underneath the carpet? We didn't want anybody to know about it.
Well, one of the biggest things I personally have observed was COVID. If I'm being honest, wow. I think before that, we definitely started seeing a little bit more of it, especially with social media and people maybe being a little bit more vulnerable online. That gave other people permission to do so. But I've seen a huge surge after COVID. I think COVID forced a lot of individuals into introspection. A lot of those coping mechanisms that are deemed as acceptable as by society, such as like busy work, right? Hustle, constantly doing, those things were kind of taken away from us. And so it forced us to really sit there with all of ourselves, right? The light and the shadow. And that's what I think has inspired at least many of the people that I work with to finally dive deep into that journey.
Yeah, yeah. You make me think, my father, again, I grew up in the Midwest. My father grew up very impoverished. He grew up walking to school 3 miles, holes in his shoes, that whole story. But he grew up in this era that a man or this particular role as a male was his identity was based upon how much he could handle, how much he could suffer without telling anybody. Everything was what we were going through was kind of like under in the closet. It's like he always said, what goes on in our house stays in our house. But now this generation, and I don't know if it's just humanity, Yamarie, we're like, okay, enough is enough. We've got to let go of these older ways, these older tools, they're not working for us. And I got to be okay with saying I hurt. I got to be okay with saying I'm not enough just because I say I hurt. I know, is that a mouthful or what? You follow what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think we're starting to embrace that, right? I mean, I feel, especially because a lot of women that I support at times tend to be women of color. There's still a lot of that generationally and culturally, where even how we define strength can be different. So there is still a lot of those things that you're saying, where it's like what happens in the home stays at home, and a strong woman does it alone. And there's still all these cultural narratives and belief systems that I think that we're still kind of learning how to alchemize and transcend and redefine. But I agree with you. I think there is more of an embracing the last few years. It's been more even self-help, things like self-help and self-care. They've been more commercialized, which has given people permission to do the work.
Yeah, so well said. When we look at someone else, and I think you're right, social media, Instagram, even post-COVID, when we see somebody else opening up and being vulnerable, we go, oh my God. It's almost like they give us permission, right, Yamarie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I know you talk about it a lot in your writing, and I've read a lot of your stuff. I've read a lot of your posts on Instagram. You talk a lot about life can be tough, and that's the part of the reason why you are on this mission to do this work. Tell us, if you don't mind, and whatever you feel comfortable in sharing, what was it so much about your journey, some of the difficult parts that kind of birthed this? I got to help others. Where did that, what experiences did you experience that kind of brought that on? If you could share it with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, if you would have looked up at one point in my life, if you looked up victim mindset, my picture would have been in the dictionary, right? I think literally I was born into struggle. And having been born into struggle, single parent home, in the projects, experienced and witnessed a lot of difficult things growing up, my entire life felt like one challenge after another. And I eventually got to a point where I was just like, it was actually, I always tell people it started off as an F you to God, and it actually brought me closer, ironically, where I was like, all right, well, God, apparently you're not going to come help me and you're not going to come save me. So I'm going to have to figure this out. I'm going to have to figure out how to be happy. I'm going to have to figure out how to have a life that I can enjoy, because you don't seem to be doing anything about it. And that forced me to kind of take on a level of personal responsibility that I hadn't really taken on until that point, because I had been victimized, right? And it took me a while to learn the difference between being victimized and subscribing to a life of victimhood. So once I started figuring that out, I was just like, wow, everyone needs to understand this. Why don't they teach us these things? Like, there's things that I teach now, right? Even things as basic as helping people understand what they're feeling, that I'm like, why the hell don't they teach us this in schools? So I think having been through so much struggle in my life, and realizing that even now when I experience challenges, right, the difference is that I understand how to eliminate unnecessary suffering. I want to be able to do that for others. It's understanding that crap is going to happen in life, right? Yeah. Things are going to happen that are outside of our control. But if we can start to learn how to take control of our emotional state in spite of what's happening around us, we eliminate a lot of the unnecessary suffering that can really put us in a dark hole.
Yeah. Does anybody in the house tonight feel what's happening? Oh my God. I mean, it's palatable. Your spirit, your energy, Yamarie, just shines through. That's what I love about circles, because we can do this. We're from all different parts of the earth. We're all different cultures, all different areas of struggle. And yet we're here collectively. And the energy that you put out is so amazing. So thank you for being you, and thank you for embracing this. You said something that I wrote a note, and you said that you grew up in the situation that you grew up. You were born into struggle, and I wrote that my absence forced me to find what I was looking for and realized that it was never missing to begin with. It's the absence of it that forced me to discover what I was looking for I had all along. Yes?
I agree.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
beautifully said, well articulated. I feel like I want to write that down and remember that for myself, but that's exactly what happened.
So I love what you talk about. I know, I know you, but I don't know you. But what I hear is this slap with love behind it. I hear, I'm going to give you a swift kick, but I'm going to love you through it, right? That's what I hear. You're not going to allow somebody to be a victim. Help somebody that's listening tonight that may be chewing on that victim, because I've done it. I still do it. I struggle with it. But help us get out of that. Empower us a little bit. How do we overcome that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first is understanding the difference, right? You might have been victimized in your life, meaning people have probably done some things that have been really hurtful and that are not okay, right? And I don't expect you to be okay with that. But there's a difference between subscribing to defeat, which is the victim mindset, right? I'm defeated here. There's nothing that I can do about it. I have absolutely no controls. Handing over your control to the universe or to others, versus that empowered mindset, right? Of, okay, no matter what's going on in my life, I'm going to recognize where my power of choice lies. I'm going to recognize that there are some things that I have absolutely no control over, but there are some things that I do have control over. And those are the things that I'm going to focus on in order to improve my life. And one of the things that has helped me, Jeff, in terms of reconciling around a lot of traumas that I've experienced, is this idea of fate versus destiny. So I look at all those experiences that were really tough in my life as the fated events, the things that were kind of almost like part of the preparation, the training ground, helping me with my purpose, step into my purpose. And then there's destiny, which is the product of the choices that I've made during those fated events. And I think subscribing to that kind of mentality can be very supportive for people who have suffered some atrocities, because I deal with clients every day that have gone through things that I shouldn't have to repeat. Right. And I know that could be really tough when you hear that, like, stop subscribing to victim mindset. But it's not saying that we're saying that what happened to us is okay. Instead, we're saying what happened to us happened. And how do I want to support myself in my healing process and my personal development in spite of it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. Do you have some tips for that process? I've heard a lot of different tips for people who have been victimized on how to overcome it. Some of those tips that I've heard is actually being able to forgive. This is a very strong one, but forgive those that hurt us, wronged us. That's a tough one. Can you have any light to shed on that, my friend? How do we forgive those that hurt us?
This is actually very interesting, because there was a conversation that I was having with a group the other day, and we talked about what forgiveness is and isn't, right? And we talked about forgiveness being a choice to release anger and resentment. That's poisoning us. It's not necessarily condoning what has happened, or reconciliation, right? Because sometimes people, in terms of relationship with others, can think that forgiveness means I have to reconcile with that person, or I have to accept what they did. And so you don't have to make it okay. You just have to accept that it has happened. And now what do you want to do to support yourself in that process? As far as some other tips to give, at the highest level, just for the sake of time, the way that I invite people to look at their healing journey is it's a process that involves awareness, acceptance, and alignment, right? And so when we're in that state of victimhood or unconsciousness, we're going to be experiencing certain things, right? Maybe that anger, maybe feeling defeated, maybe feeling hopeless. That's a sign that there's something that's trying to be brought into your awareness. That's an opportunity to deepen your awareness around your wounds, who you are, your values, all of that. And then you have to, once you're there, you get to look at, okay, what might I need to accept? So as far as like a tangible tip, whenever you're feeling that way, what are two things you might be able to accept in order to move forward in your healing process? That's one way that you can look at it. And then once you accept that, what are the actions that you can take in alignment with that acceptance so that you can get closer to whatever it is that your goal is? More peace, more clarity, healthier relationships, whatever that is. So hopefully that helps, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I'm looking at your website. I just dropped it in the chat, friends. So by the way, if you're just joining us, we're listening to, I'm not going to roll my R, but we're listening to Yamarie Negron. And just go with me, okay? Already we have heard about this transformative power that we all have, so that when we experience traumatic things in our life, it doesn't keep us there. What I hear you saying is you kind of are like this rescuer. You're like this lifeline. If I'm in the dumps, if I'm in the pits, if I'm in the wallies, you're throwing me a lifeline, right, Yamarie, to bring me out. I'm looking at your website and it says, make shift happen. I absolutely love this. I am curious for you to share a little bit more about how you were able to take this traumatic situation happen in your life, turn it not only for good, but turn it into what you believe was your passion. Can you share more about that? How did it evolve?
Absolutely. I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question, though. So can you give me context?
Yeah. So we see you now. You're throwing us lifelines. You're the coach, but you always haven't been the coach. You've had to go through your traumatic experience, which you're helping us get through. So keep us on that journey. What are some of the other things that you've gone through to now take what happened to you negative, turn it into positive, and not only that, but build a business around it?
Absolutely. So in spite of all the things that I've been through, one of the interesting moments in my life was when I had achieved what I thought was quote unquote goals, right? Like I was not only making six figures in corporate America, but I was making an extra 10K a month in my side hustle, right? So like financially, I was breaking generational cycles, right? First to graduate college, first to make six figures, first to start her own little side business. I was married to what people from the outside in thought was the ideal relationship, but they didn't realize that there was narcissistic. I didn't even realize that there was narcissistic abuse going on at that time. So all these things on paper, like I was traveling multiple times a quarter. On paper, you would have looked at my life and been like, oh my God, she's made it. She's done it. Everything must be perfect. And I was the most miserable I've ever been in my life. I was going through a depression and didn't even realize it, but I was just in such a low space. I was crying multiple times a week. People didn't realize that I was going through emotional abuse in my home because, again, a lot of those narratives that we talked about earlier, what happens in the home stays in the home. I kept a lot of things hidden. Yes. And because I did such a good job throughout my life being the strong one and being the one who always had it together, people didn't realize that I was slowly crumbling and falling apart. And so it was that moment in my life that really forced me into deep healing. I mean, that was the point where at one point, guys, I had like 3 or 4 coaches. I had a spiritual coach, I had a business coach, I had a life coach, and I had a therapist, right? I was doing all the things to try to get out of it. And again, that's where that process of discovery happened, because I was like, what's going on? Like, it's not that these people aren't capable. I was even doing some of the Tony Robbins programs. I'm like, it's not that these people don't know what they're talking about. It's not that they're not capable. Why isn't this integrating? And that's what led me to now my signature framework that has supported me in the healing process. I didn't know that's what it was then. I had to kind of like pare it back and be like, what is it that I'm doing to move along this healing process? But that's what led me there.
Yeah. I hope somebody in the room listening tonight, I believe we're speaking to women in the room. I think we're mainly women, but we're speaking to women in the room that you've got a business in you and you need to hear what was just dropped. When you get out of your pain, you have learned a tool that you can help others out of their pain. Document it, journal it, write it. It doesn't seem like it's a great big deal to you right now, but it becomes your signature help lifeline that you're going to be able to pass to others. And that's what I hear you saying, Yamarie, right?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, by the way. Guys, when Namaste and Slay was born, I'm going to tell you something really, really funny, right? When I first created Namaste and Slay, it started off as an Instagram page where I posted quotes to help give myself through what I was going through. It was a cathartic tool. I had no idea it was going to become a business. As a matter of fact, guys, I'm like a little embarrassed to say this now. I didn't even know what Namaste meant at the time. Right? It was like, it was a name that came to mind on the subway. Like, talk about following your intuition. I was like, Namaste and Slay. That sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. And I created this page. I later realized what it means. You know, the God with me sees the God within you, or the universe in me sees the universe within you. And I was like, wow, how perfect, right? How perfect that this aligns where I'm headed. But it started off as an Instagram channel. And I actually became a life coach in a failed attempt to save my last marriage, right? The one with the covert narcissist. So I understand it's unhealthy now. But, you know, sometimes we don't understand that what we're going through is preparation for our mission, for our purpose. And, you know, it turns out to be that way. So I just wanted to share that with the group, Jeff, since you mentioned that, because I had no idea what this was becoming. I just followed the nudges.
Yeah, I followed the nudges. Gosh, my friends. Oh my God. I just had a conversation with a new partner that's coming on Circles, Yamarie. Her name is Casey Jones. And the spirit that I hosted this conversation before ours. You've got that same vivaciousness, friends. These are the answers that we're looking for. This is the stuff. What you just said reminded me of what I share with people. This is not happening to you. This is happening for you. That's a huge revelation, right, Yamarie? This is not, and what you're teaching us is that's what begins to break that victim cycle, that victim mentality is, no, wait a minute. And in fact, you go back to those that abused you. And this is kind of a little bit weird, but you go back and say, thank God you did that to me because you helped me rescue me. Gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we know about trauma, you know, when we study trauma, is that it's not necessarily the trauma that can hold people back. It's the meaning that's attached to it, right? And so what we're talking about here is giving our pain a purpose, right? Giving our pain new meaning. And, you know, it doesn't matter what that meaning is, right? And I don't expect you, it is a process, by the way, guys. As I mentioned earlier, like, you would have found my picture next to victim mindset at one point. I wasn't always there. But slowly I realized, you know, like this is just hurting me and holding me back. So if I want to have something different in my life, if I want to experience something different, I have to rewrite the narrative around what's happened to me. And that's a lot of what I do with my clients.
Yeah, I love the rewriting the narrative. That's one of the things that I learned back in the day. I grew up with the mentor. My mentor was Jim Rohn. Jim is now deceased, but he was the grandfather of kind of the personal development with Tony Robbins. Tony and I actually did the same thing for Jim. We sold Jim seminars. We attended his seminars, etc. Tony was a few years ahead of me, but what Jim really taught me was that rewriting that script, rewriting that narrative around what's happening to me, and giving me the understanding that I'm the author of my life. I'm the author and the finisher of my life, right? Take us through a little bit of that, if you don't mind, Coach. How would we start to rewrite that narrative? Now, I don't want to give all of your tools away because people need to find you on the website. They need to. I was just looking at, you've got a bad bitch boot camp. Come on, girl. I just went someplace else, but I'm looking at your website. So I'm all over the place, but we'll put the bad bitch on hold for a second. Talk to us about our narrative. Give us a couple of tools to help us rewrite that.
Yeah, I actually don't mind giving the framework because that's something that I give away for free on my website, and I also give out in my groups, right? So the framework that I use to support me with that is SLAY, right? Like Namaste and Slay, it's called SLAY. The S is for stop, check your suds, and shift the energy. And I'll explain what suds are in a minute and what that means. So it's stop, check your suds, shift the energy. So whenever you're stuck in that quote unquote victimized thinking, or even that state, that emotional state, that's your call to action to stop and interrupt the pattern. And so when I say stop, check your suds, and shift the energy, SUDS stands for subjective units of distress. It's a simple scale that we use. On a scale of 1 to 10, how distressed do I feel right now? Or how misaligned do I feel right now? And if we're at an 8 or higher, we do not take action, right? We don't text the ex, we don't pass go, we don't make important decisions. We actually shift the energy. One of the tools that I love to use is breath work. We shift the energy, we do some breath work, and we bring ourselves down at least to about a 5 or a 4 before moving forward. The second is the L in Slay is look underneath the surface. And what we're looking for is we're observing our thoughts and our feelings, because our thoughts influence our emotional state, right? Our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings are what influence the way that we show up in our reality. So we're looking at what our thoughts and our feelings, how they're influencing the way that we're responding to life. And if it's not in alignment with our goal, with our objective, with in this case, with how I want to feel, then we're adopting a new narrative of hope, opportunity, or courage. So adopting a new narrative of hope, opportunity, or courage. That's the reframing part. We're looking at our thoughts and reframing them. If we had to choose a new narrative of hope, opportunity, or courage that resonates with us, what would that be? And the Y in Slay is about yes, saying yes to that new narrative. And so once you have that new narrative, it's important to take action in alignment with that new narrative, because that's how we build the new neural pathways, right? That's how we create change. It's not just in the knowing, it's in the doing. So that's a framework that those of you who are here tonight can start applying to your diet, your life daily. And like literally, that's a lifestyle for me. It's on autopilot now, so I don't even realize that I'm doing it. And sometimes I can even go ahead and skip to the L or the A, right? But if you practice that enough, you'll start to see that things start to shift for you.
Yeah, beautifully said. I absolutely love the framework. Friends, I just dropped Yamarie's website in the chat. Make sure you visit the website. It's full of resources that you can pick up right now. You say, Jeff, how do I? Jeff, how do I? Friends, you've got a resource right in front of you. Please visit it and check it out. I know that self-talk became huge for me, Yamarie, my own transformation. I never realized that I was a product of my upbringing. I just thought my upbringing was reality. It's taken me years on the planet to realize, oh my God, I'm a product of my upbringing. My belief system is not necessarily true. It's something that I adopted. Somebody told me that I should think this way, be this way, believe this way. And so I've created my own reality, and my awareness and transformation started when I realized that I could actually separate myself from this believed reality, rewrite the frickin' reality, and start creating the life that I wanted to live. And what you're sharing with us is that framework on how to do that. So I love that. I love that. If I rewrite my narrative and I'm working on that, is there another step? What would be a step in conjunction with that could help me continue to transform?
Yeah, that's that last piece, the yes, right? Which is the alignment piece. I mentioned earlier that the cycle of healing and transformation is one of awareness, acceptance, alignment. And it's not linear, right? And sometimes we shift into acceptance, we step back into self-awareness again. And so the alignment piece, I can't stress that enough, is so key. One of the things that I do with clients week one is that we identified a set of core values that is in alignment with who they want to be. I kind of hate that statement. I like to say who they want to unveil because to your point earlier, Jeff, is already there. But if who they want to be, right? If they gave themselves permission, if they understood that it was 100% safe, that they would be supported, if they showed up as themselves, the way that they want to show up in this world, how would they show up? And we come up with 3 to 4 core values, and that becomes their anchor for how they should be living their life daily, right? Every decision they're making, they're running through those core values. So for me, it was bold, brave, and authentic, right? When I decided to launch my business, I didn't do it the most prepared way. I had 4 months of savings in my bank account, right? And it was sink or swim. And there was no backup plan. And it was like, if I'm going to make this happen, if I'm going to replace my salary in 4 months, I've got to be bold, brave, and authentic. And every single decision I made, even if I was afraid, I made it through that lens. I felt the fear and I stepped into alignment with the core values that I understood I needed to embrace anyways. So that's the biggest key. You know, that's the biggest step. I come across a lot of brilliant people and brilliant women who they could probably write papers and outline courses for you on personal development because they've been doing it so long. But the piece that they're missing is the integration. They get stuck there. So taking action is such a huge part of the process. And guys, it's okay if you start small. You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. You can start small, start where you are, but it's important that you take small action daily towards your goals.
Yeah, I love it, Coach. Thank you so much. The chat is blowing up, which I love, friends. Thank you so much. I have a comment in the chat that I wanted to bring to your attention, Yamarie. The guest says, what if I don't know who I am anymore? What if you don't know who you are anymore? Maybe you've been lost in an abusive relationship, or just you're in like the tumbling zone of life and you just don't know who you are anymore. Where do you start, Yamarie?
I
How
love
can
that
somebody?
question.
Yeah,
One of the main things I do with clients is a visualization so that we get to play pretend and explore, right? Reality is oftentimes it's not that you don't know, is that that part has been suppressed out of fear. And so if we can get into a relaxed enough state, and you can do this on your own, right, as well. But if you can get into a relaxed enough state and allow yourself to play a game of pretend, allow yourself to explore the possibilities. Like if we had a magic wand and you could just manifest the life of your dreams, what would that look like? What would that feel like? What kind of experiences might you have? How would you show up in this world? And from there, that's where we could start pulling out core values that align with that vision.
yeah. I love it. Somebody has already visited your website. We're talking about, because I know you're talking a lot about women, but you help men as well, right? I mean, you're helping people who are on a path of personal transformation, right, Coach?
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
even though obviously my marketing, I'm very focused on women, there are men that resonate with my message. I believe right now about 10% of my clientele are men. The rest is
Yeah.
women. So yes, obviously, if my message resonates with you and you feel I can support you, I would be happy to support you on your journey.
Yeah, I love it. Friends, are you enjoying the conversation tonight? Let's throw some love up right quick for our guest in the house. I love it. I love it. I love it. This is a little bit different role for you, Coach, right? Usually you're leading these groups and you're the one, and now I get to put you in the hot seat and I get to ask all these questions. I hope
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
all
not
right
gonna
with you.
lie. I was a little nervous, and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, why am I so nervous? I do this every day. But it's
Isn't it
awesome being in
interesting?
the hot
Yes.
seat.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm right with the rest of the attendees tonight. I'm loving and drawing. I've got notes all over these napkins, all over my desk. But you said something that I call spending time with our future self. Yeah, and I want to stay here for a little bit because I think we can take something very important with us tonight. Visiting our future self means exactly what you said. That role play. Who do I want to be? What would my ideal self do with me right now? Help us through some of this, what we call imposter syndrome, Coach. If I have this vision of my ideal self, but there's another part of me that says, well, really, you're not that. So if you act like that, you're really pretending. So you're not really authentically that. Are you following the train of thought? Can you help us through this whole imposter syndrome thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where I think the framework that I mentioned earlier comes into play as well, and things like identifying core values. Reality is, a lot of people say fake it till you make it. I don't believe in fake it till you make it. I believe practice it until you become it. Right. And so if you can get clear on what kind of principles do I want to live by? What kind of values do I want to live by? What kind of characteristics do I want to embody more? And you start to make small decisions daily. That compounding effect is incredible, right? You start to make small decisions daily that are in alignment with that. Eventually you become it. I wasn't always this person, guys. I know that's probably hard to believe, but I was not. I was really shy. Believe it or not, guys, I'm introverted. I'm one of those people who's like intro extro. I describe myself as a cat. Like when I want to be around people, I'll come around. But like most of the time I'm like, I want to go hide in my corner.
I love it.
So yeah, so I was very introverted. I was very shy. I remember when I first started practicing some of this kind of work and I was still in corporate, when I had to speak up in meetings because I was on the leadership team, I would literally shake, right? I would have to like hold my hands together because I would shake. So I wasn't always this person that you hear over the audio today. Like this has taken practice and I'm still evolving daily.
Yeah. I love that. I applaud you for that. I applaud you for that, Coach, because my God, there's so many chances that we can get in life where life just keeps trying to beat us, beat us, beat us. And there's this other part of you that goes, I'll be damned. Pardon my expression. I'll be damned. I've worked too hard, too long, fought too hard for this. I'm going to stay in character. When you were just talking, Coach, you make me think of Jim Carrey, the actor, right? I've read a lot of Jim's stuff, and I've read a lot about his background. Now, some people think he's weird, but he used to go to the top of Hollywood all the time and talk to himself and tell him that he was the most sought after actor, making more money than any other actor. He had these character talks with himself and he manifested that, right? Is that the right term? We're talking about manifesting this one inside of us that we want to be.
Yeah. And here's the reality, Jeff. I think one of the things that gets a lot of people stuck is we're designed to avoid pain, right? And discomfort. Just as humans, that's what we're designed for. But unfortunately, there is no transformation. There is no growth without some pain and discomfort. Yeah, and so I acknowledge that there's going to be fear, and I'm more committed to my growth and healing anyways, right? I acknowledge that there's going to be pain, and I'm more committed to my growth and healing anyways. So being committed and consistent, right, are so key if you're going to experience, we're talking about thriving. Like, that's what it takes. Like, this is not necessarily easy work. Like, the amount of times that I've cried and fell on my knees and was like, come on, God, for real. Like, you're kicking my ass over here. Like, I don't know if I could take another punch.
Yeah.
So, embrace that that's part of your humanity, but find a why that's strong enough to keep you moving forward anyways.
Oh, God, the bombs are just dropping, friends, dropping. I remember the quote that came to me when you said that, Yamarie, was, if you can find the why for living, you can endure almost anyhow. If you find a strong enough why. I also love what you said because of our friends of faith. I think we're all of faith. It's just mine. Your faith might be a little different than mine, but for people of faith, faith is this empowerment within to believe the best, that there is hope, there is possibility. And what I love what you said is sometimes we people of faith will say, oh God, okay, and I'm just going to use this term, okay, God, I'm now a person of faith. I'm one of yours, then come rescue me. And you're sitting by the road by yourself. You don't get rescued. You don't get healed. You don't get delivered. You don't get set free. But the preacher, for God's sake, told me if I just did this, my life would work out fine. I think there's a lot of people sitting on the side rails of life, friend, that said, oh God, the preacher, the person, the priest, or whatever the spiritual person said, all I had to do was. But then I learned in my journey, like you're sharing with us, Coach, that the reason why we didn't get it is because we discovered we had it all along. So the absence of the answer made me search deeper for the answer, which revealed it was in me all along. Yeah, you did this to me, Coach. I just want you to know, I do talk like this all the time, but you bring it out in me. I love it. I love it. So talk to us some more. Keep us on this journey. Friends, I'm going to open up the mic in here a little bit. So if you're in the house and you've got this chomping at the bit question that you want to ask our guest tonight, this is your time. I would not leave the room without getting your question answered if it were me, but that's just me. So talk to us a little bit more. Now we're talking about really this thriving beyond heartbreak, right? Yamarie, and you're labeling this heartbreak as relationship heartbreak, or this is just heartbreaks in life in general for you?
For me, it's in general, right? Because I've had my heart broken by several relationships, but some of the biggest heartbreaks have been, things not going the way that I had hoped in life, whether or not that was a career, a relationship, it doesn't matter. So this is about heartbreak in general.
Yeah. So here's a very powerful question that just got dropped in the chat. How do I find my why?
I love that question. And hopefully I have a good answer.
Yeah. Come on, bring it on. Bring it on. We're ready for it. Bring it on.
Well, first things first, right? Release this idea that there is just one why, right? When I say find your why, I mean, just find a meaning, create meaning. Again, try to find some meaning and whatever it is that you're experiencing that fuels your purpose. For me, it's this idea of ending unnecessary suffering, right? Because as I stated earlier in the chat, I just felt like when I look back at my life, yes, there's a lot of crazy crap that I went through, but a lot of the turmoil that was being created by my mind. That was being created by the meaning that I was attaching to the experience, right? So for me, that's what it is. It's, man, a lot of the suffering that we go through is unnecessary if we have the right tools. I want to teach this to others. So that's my why, right? That's what helps me get up every day, is ending that pain for myself and for others. But it could be anything for you. And it gets to also change, guys. It gets to change based on your goals, based on your ambitions. But certainly one place that I would start is, again, just getting clear on the values, getting clear on your values and your principles for living. And also start looking back. One of the things that I've learned, as cliche as it sounds, is that often your pain is that compass guiding you towards your purpose, right? And so look back at, your past, your experiences. What is it that you've been through? What is it that you've been able to overcome? What is it that's something that's always been a talent of yours? Like, I was that little kid that even at 5 years old, strangers would sit next to her on a building and on a bench and divulge their life story to her, right? So I was always really good at holding space and listening. I was always the person that people went to for advice. And so kind of similar to what you said about you, Jeff, earlier, like your mom said, if you could find a business where you could just, use that gift of gab, I feel like that's what happened with me. It's like, I found a business where I literally get to show up and do what I was always doing all along anyways, which was, listening to people, helping them feel heard, helping them feel understood, and now giving them actionable guidance so they can get out of their own way and get through whatever life is throwing their way.
Yeah. So well said. Oftentimes in my coaching, Coach, when I'm leading people in conversations like this, and we're talking about something that strikes them emotionally, it moves them to the core, I ask them to pay attention to that, because when we're moved emotionally, there's signals in there. There's nuggets of truth in there. Why did that move you emotionally? Why? Not only just with tears of sadness or emotional heartbreak, but anger. Anger is a great indicator of your passion and your purpose. What has you up in arms that you just wish you could solve, and it just pisses you? It just deeply moves you to frustration over it. Those are indicators, right, Yamarie, that show us and point us in our direction of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, because one of the things that I hate is seeing people that I'm like, I feel like sometimes, and maybe this is just me, right? You probably feel this way as a coach too. Have you ever felt like sometimes you can see people better than they see themselves? Where I'm like, I see how amazing you are. I see how brilliant you are. I see how capable you are. And it's frustrating for me seeing people not living to their full potential, right? And so that's a very good point. I think that's something that's always struck a chord with me, is feeling like the experiences that they had in their lives are holding them back from showing up the way that they truly are and experiencing the things that they truly deserve. And so that's certainly a big part of that.
Yeah, you make me think I was reading comments and feedback from all of our circles, people who have attended meetings, groups, etc. And I get to read the feedback. And I was reading one the other day, and the person who was a part of this room said, when I heard the speaker speak, I heard myself. And it so deeply moved me that's what Circles is about, friends. You can come onto a room like this. Somebody can be sharing out of the purity of their heart, and it resonates with you because it's your story. You can identify yourself in someone else's story. And when you have that happen, it goes, oh my God, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I can actually be okay because I'm not alone. It's so good to hear. What's one thing that you wish that now you would have learned earlier, Yamarie? What's one thing that now, you're certain of now, that you just wish you would have known earlier?
I think it's everything we were talking about, that like my trauma doesn't have to define me. Yeah. My wounding in my past doesn't have to define me. For so many years it did, right? This has been an active journey, at least for now, 15 years now? Probably 15, 17 years of like actively doing this work. But for a good part of my young adult life, I felt so defined by my past experiences, by my trials, by my challenges. And so I truly wish I would have learned this earlier. Like sometimes I get clients who are on the younger side, they're 20, and they're like, I'm like, man, like, I wish I had someone give me all this information at your age, because you're going to fucking kick ass by the time you're my age, So yeah, that's what I really wish I understood. I did not get it. Even though I heard it in the personal development books and stuff, it would make me angry, because I felt like, well, these people don't understand because they haven't lived my life, right? They haven't experienced what I've experienced. And so I wish I would have had that shift in perspective sooner.
Yeah. Oh, that's so brilliant. And I want to get to, there's a question in the chat. I want you to answer this, but what you sparked a chord in me. I remember having a guest on I said on the podcast, but it's on the masterclass here with Circles. We had a guest on, he was in his late 50s, and he came out as gay in his late 50s in his life, Yamarie. But what he said is, he lived he lived a heterosexual life with marriage for 30-something years with kids, all while deep inside believing that he was somebody else. Now, here's the point that I want to share with that story that resonated with what you just said. He said, Jeff, when I came out fully, he said, I came out to my my relatives and friends, and they didn't understand me. But he said, when I came out to this other community, they go, okay, oh, well, oh, what? It's like, it was no big deal. And I think that's what you just said that sparked it in me. When we finally get to coming out and be this full, authentic self of ours, we go to other people and we go, I did this. And it's almost anticlimactic. They go, okay, well, that's no big deal. It's almost like you didn't know that already about yourself. It's like, you're you, friend. The whole point of this is you're you right now, right deep inside you. There's you. You're searching for her, but she's there. You're searching for him, but he's there. So when we come out, so to speak, and we fully blossom, it's like, damn, I could have done this a lot earlier than I've done.
Yeah.
Now,
and
right?
you know what I realized, Jeff, with you bringing that up, since a lot of my traumas are literally around wounding invisibility, because I experienced a lot of corporal punishment in the Catholic institution as a kid for being me. For being like a bubbly, rambunctious kid. Since a lot of it's around that, is that the irony is, once you give yourself permission to show up authentically, that's when you actually start attracting your tribe. You start attracting people who root for you, mean well, are going to be your support system, your ride or dies. Not only from a relationship standpoint do you start attracting the right people, but you start attracting the right opportunities and resources because you're allowing yourself to be you. So that's so important. Is like the irony of it all is that not being authentically you is wearing a mask that doesn't allow the right opportunities and the right people to even be able to identify you because you're hiding behind that mask of fear.
Oh, God. Friends, hear the voice of the universe. If you're listening and wanting to know what the universe is telling you, it just spoke. I mean, I'm telling you, Tony Robbins, the name Tony Robbins, and Yamarie, and Michelle, and Wilma, and Mary, and Jim, and all of it. It's no one has a market cornered on it, friends. It's getting out of our own way and saying, God, yes, this is me. And not giving a flying flip what anybody else is saying. Now, you do it respectfully. You don't go in the boardroom and cut everybody's head off. That's not what we're talking about. But what you just said, I've witnessed in my life, Yamarie, when I stop being afraid of being me, shit happens, and it's good shit finally, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, it's good shit that finally starts to happen.
Absolutely.
Wow. Friends, are you enjoying the conversation? I've got love in the air, like I do care, because I do phenomenal. Here's another question from our chat. How do you find the balance between striving and recovery?
That's a beautiful question.
That's a beautiful question. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, and it's a little bit of a loaded one, but I'm going to answer it a little bit more simply. But it'll put you in the right direction. So practicing what I call authentic resilience. And authentic resilience is the ability to navigate stress, challenges, trauma, and adversity while prioritizing our well-being, right? So a lot of times what happens when we're going through these really difficult times, our well-being gets put to the side. I don't have time to sleep. I don't have time to breathe. I don't have time to do the healing, right? I have to take care, be action-oriented, focus on this now. And again, things got a lot easier when I started making the space for myself, when I started prioritizing my well-being, prioritizing my mental state, my emotional state, putting that self first. So I know that that's like a very simple answer to a very complex question, but if you start looking up what that means, that can head you in the right direction. That's how you start balancing striving and recovery. Is you give yourself permission to, part of that is giving yourself permission to slow down, right? Giving yourself permission to slow down, giving yourself permission to be imperfect. That's all a part of authentic resilience.
Yeah. So I have to bring us, friends, we're just about out of time. Would you believe it or not? Our hour has gone by that quick. But before I let you go, Coach, I want you to talk about the resources that you have on your website. I want you to talk about, I am fascinated with this Bad Bitch boot camp. Now, I'm not female, but I bet I could show up at the Bad Bitch boot camp, couldn't I? Talk to us about what that resource is. How do people find it? Can they sign up for it? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, Bad Bitch Boot Camp, I just closed out my last round about a month or two back. I will be relaunching it again in the fall.
Okay.
But it's all a course that's meant to help you understand how to rebuild your self-worth and rebuild your self-esteem. So rebuilding that sense of confidence. So that's what that's about. It's a 6-week boot camp where it's mostly self-guided, but then we meet on a monthly basis to answer any questions and support you through the process. So that's what that is. As far as what kind of services I offer, I also have a membership right now, and I have one-on-one intensives. My one-on-one intensives, I'm limited on how many people I can take on, obviously, because I've got to juggle all those things together in circles. So there aren't that many spots available. I think right now I have 2 spots available for anyone who's interested. But those of you who are curious about which of my programs or upcoming launch programs, because I'll be relaunching Bad Bitch Bootcamp, might be the best fit for you, what I would say is go to my website, sign up for a complimentary discovery call, and I'll be more than happy to guide you through which offering might be the best fit. And also, I may not be the best fit. And I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction if you are. I don't believe in taking on anyone that I don't feel I would be able to support properly. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I love that. Authenticity at the core. Hey, you and I might not be a fit. You might be infatuated with me right now, but guess what? About a week in, you might not like me either, because I'm going to hold you freaking accountable to these things. So this just doesn't become rhetoric. It becomes transformation. That's what we're after, is transformation, right, Coach? That's what we need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And transformation is not easy.
No, if it were, everybody would be doing it, right? Yeah, it is not easy. It's the hardest, easiest thing I've ever done. But yeah, but what the glory is that we get to look back and we get to say, I did it my way. Right? Is that Frank Sinatra?
Absolutely.
I did it my way? Absolutely.
I think so. We're quoting Frank now.
Friends, I just dropped our guest link in the chat. I've also dropped her free 30-minute breakthrough session call. Please just pick up the phone, go to the website. I mean, schedule the appointment, get a chance to visit, see if it's a good fit. Coach, thank you. Yamarie, thank you for showing up tonight in all your authentic self. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Jeff. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate you.
I love it. I love it. All right, friends, we're running out of time. I'm going to be able to close our room here in a half a second. Yes, the hearts are coming up. Let's share our love for our guest tonight. Make sure you visit her resources, and make sure that you take away these steps that she's taught us tonight. And for me, I'm going to look myself. Here's my challenge. I just want to drop you. Go to the mirror when you get done. Look the one that's staring back at you and tell them how much you love them. Tell them how proud that you are of them. And encourage them to know that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And we do make it, don't we, Coach? We do make it.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, friends, listen, before you go, do me a favor. You follow Yamarie on Circles. If you don't follow her right now, you can hold and press her little avatar, and it'll give you the option to follow. Follow her every time she holds a meeting here on Circles, and she holds a slew of them, by the way. You're going to get a chance to be notified and join her, visit her website, visit her resources, and we just thank you, Coach, one more time for helping us be more us.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
All right, my friends, that closes our meeting out. Thank you for all the hearts in the air. At the close, make sure you leave your comments, share the love, tell Circles what you love about this. Share your love for Yamarie too. Tell her how much she means to you, and she gets to read that feedback, and it will encourage her again. You've been listening to Yamarie and Jeff live right here on Circles Masterclass. Thank you, everybody. Love and well wishes back to you 1,000-fold. We'll see you the next time. Good night, everybody.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.